Well, we saw her in that report, and with me now, minus the glasses, is Susie Hargreaves, who is the Chief Executive of the Internet Watch Foundation. She attended the meeting with the Prime Minister David Cameron, also our technology correspondent Rory Cellan-Jones. So, Susie, first of all, tell me about the meeting you had today with the Prime Minister in Downing Street and other kind of leading kind of campaigners on this issue. How did it go?
It was a really positive meeting, lots of good stuff to report. We've seen an unprecedented amount of activity from internet companies over the summer, following the Prime Minister's speech in the early summer. And as a result, Google and Microsoft were able to announce a number of initiatives looking at ways in which people return searches for when they search for child sexual abuse content. We're going to be working closely with them and CEOP, the police, to do a pilot project on trying to identify and bring down pathways to peer-to-peer torrent sites.
Do you believe this will make a big difference?
I believe it's a huge step in the right direction. You know, the problem is huge, and the problem is one that's not going to be resolved today, but over the summer we've all collectively kind of stepped up, we're all working together, and I think we're doing much more. So we're on the way to making a much bigger difference. So the job is not done, but we are some way forward, yes.
Rory, how significant is it what Google and Microsoft are doing? Because they've been very reluctant to get themselves into the position where they effectively start being the policemen of the internet.
Well, they have been stressing today, and they unusually held a joint press conference, these two deadly rivals, that they've always done this. They've always taken down images supplied by the Internet Watch Foundation. What they have done is tweak the way their search algorithms work so that you're less likely to come across this material. Now, it has to be said, they are stressing, a lot of experts are stressing, that it's not via search that most people find these images. Most of these images are hidden in dark corners of the internet. People don't necessarily stumble across them, but they're saying we have made a contribution. The government is saying, yes, they've reacted to our pressure and they have changed the way their search engines work.
Rory, you used the phrase less likely to find. I mean, that sounds kind of, it's a sort of a small step, big step. I mean,
well, to be frank, the search engines, and a lot of child safety experts back them up, basically say, we'll tell you off the record that this is all a bit of a red herring, that, you know, people don't find this stuff by searching. But, you know, they've been accused of providing a pathway to people who might suddenly get interested in this material, and they're now saying, well, we're blocking that pathway.
Susie, what do you say to that?
I would say that a really big issue is the amount of content on peer-to-peer networks. We don't know the true extent of the content that's hidden on the dark web. And one of the reasons we're doing this pilot project is to actually help us identify the sheer scale of the problem. But it's also true that there is an enormous amount of content out on the open internet, and what we know for a fact is that people's first access to this content is through searching on the web. And so actually what we need to do is attack it at lots of different levels. So there's still a huge amount to be done on the open internet, but Rory's absolutely right, masses to be done, particularly for the hardcore paedophiles who will access the content through the dark web.
What is the dark web? Is it not a www address that you kind of just bring up automatically, or what?
These are peer-to-peer networks, separate networks really, that are not searchable, that can't be crawled by these search engines. And people use specialist software. For instance, there's something called Tor, the onion router, which allows people to go online to some of these places and be completely anonymous at the same time.
So you leave no footprint or fingerprint anywhere you go?
Exactly, and it's a bit like, we heard a story a month or so ago about something called the Silk Road, which was a drugs marketplace, which existed in this dark web and was accessible only via this thing Tor. And similarly, it's thought that there are networks taking advantage of that secrecy to host child abuse images, and where paedophiles are going to share them and frankly to make money from them.
And does anybody control that space? I mean, is there anyone who has the power to say, right, well, I mean, you know, my instinct is to say, well, surely just close it down, or is it not that simple? Well,
we do know that a lot of these sites are hosted in the United States. I was told today that it's probably no more than about 10 sites, 10 networks that are hosting a lot of this material. And I think, you know, there will be a big global drive now, and collaboration with the FBI, for example, to try and attack those sites. And there are people here who are saying that should be the priority, maybe a bigger priority than what happens to search engines.
And Susie, how much of your campaigning effort is going into the dark web?
Well, as an organisation, our job is very much what's in the public domain. So the police, generally, it's their job to go after the peer-to-peer and the dark web side. But we've all decided to collaborate on this pilot project to actually work with the Home Office, with Google, Microsoft, with CEOP and ourselves to actually identify how big we think the problem is on torrent sites. So our job is on the public domain, open internet, the police's job peer-to-peer at the moment.
And you know, you were stressing the British aspect of all of this,
yeah.
But we were talking about in lots of different languages, in lots of different countries. Will Google and Microsoft be doing the same all around the world? So is this a kind of global initiative that has started today?
They announced today that the search work they're doing in terms of search results will be in many languages, so they are implementing it across the world, and they're also putting in place technical support for a range of organisations, including ourselves. So they're really doing the right thing from that point of view, because as you rightly say, this is a global problem, and it doesn't matter how good we are in the UK at getting rid of child sexual abuse content if we don't attack it on a global scale. And one of the big announcements was the UK-US alliance, which they've been working very closely together, government, law enforcement and industry, to say we can't do it on our own, we've got to work globally.
OK, Susie, Rory, both of you, thank you very much indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.